So primarily what we've been, so first of all, just a high-level overview of our project. We are working on the Arcos medical surgical video. So over this past sprint, the main thing that we've been focusing on is getting video data from a USB and sending that to a web browser on like a different computer. So we do not have any front-end work done. We've been working out of a JS Fiddle that was created for a different type of example, which is basically just JavaScript code posted online. So what we have is a Go backend that captures video data from the USB that's plugged into it, which, as you can see over here.
Can you increase the size of the font, please?
That's his computer.
Yeah.
Oh.
He's streaming from.
Oh yeah, so we're streaming my computer. This code is completely, really irrelevant.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
No, it crashed. Okay, so there's actually a bug in the library that we're working on. What you were just looking at was my patch to the open source library that we're using that will hopefully take care of this bug that we have. But basically what's happened was Irvin was streaming my computer screen to his computer via this USB adapter capture card, which has an HDMI cable plugged into my computer. So my computer was mirroring with that as a virtual display. And so then that data gets taken to Irvin's computer where FFmpeg encodes that stream to an IVF file, which we then serve using WebRTC. So the reason why it crashed is that in the WebRTC library that we're using, IVF files, the reader, if it gets to the end of a file and there's no more data, then it just never will be able to read data again. So that is a problem because FFmpeg does not encode completely at real time. So eventually, after somewhere between 6 seconds and a minute, you will reach the end of the file, and then it will never get new data, even though the video is still recording. And if you look at the video file afterwards, you can still see past when it crashed. But we are working to get that fixed. We were actually talking to the maintainer of the project today, and hopefully the patch that I came up with will fix it. But as you saw, the stream data, that's what we're working with now. In the eventual application, that HDMI cable will be plugged into an endoscopic camera. And then that video will be played in a browser, and you'll be able to draw on it and have notes next to it. Which, getting a front end working will be React, and that is a main goal of our next sprint, as well as getting the back end more smooth, because even when it works, it's still not encoding quite fast enough, so it's still pretty laggy. So we want to get that ironed out as much as possible. So yeah, iteration 2 backlog. We're going to submit a patch to Pion WebRTC for the IVF reader. We need to create a web interface. We need to implement, this is kind of a detail of WebRTC, so I'm not going to go too deeply into it. But if you had watched Irvin's computer earlier, he copy and pasted this really long base64 encoded string from the browser to our application. And so we need to implement sending it via HTTP, because that is exchanging the session description for the browser, which includes the public IP addresses of the two machines that are trying to communicate. So then we kind of have some questions for Venkat that we'll be emailing him about, although one of them we kind of got an answer to. How do we install dependencies on this build server? Someone pointed out to us that we could just put those installation commands in our build.bat file. And then I also want to talk to him about writing unit tests for the main application, like the main function in our application. Do you want to pull up the test coverage? So we currently have 36% test coverage, and most of that is individual functions. So here, these are like well covered. But if you keep scrolling, you'll get to a couple of functions that so right here, these aren't tested because I have not had time to write mock objects for them. So eventually these concretes that are taken as arguments, if you can see that in the gray, they'll be replaced with interfaces, and I'll be able to test that code, or we'll be able to test that code. But then, if you go to the bottom, where we set up all of the listeners and things like that, we're interested in his opinion on how to write tests for that. Okay, anything else?
Any questions?
Questions?
Oh, I was just gonna make a comment. So, like, you know how they have the code that's not covered? So you could write a test and have it fail, and I think it would be considered that your code is covered. It's just that one of your test cases would fail. You know what I mean? So you could write a test where return true or something, or return false, or make it fail on purpose, and then you go back and add the mock object or whatever to it.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure if I agree necessarily. That's better than just having them uncovered.
Okay.
I don't know.
That's
Ultimately, all we need to do is write interfaces for the concrete objects that are being taken as arguments, and then we'll be able to write tests. But I do appreciate that input.
Yeah, just because Venkat's they talk about write tests first in the code, so that you can, I guess, mentally model how to write the code so that it passes the test.
Yeah,
But like with the stuff
that's
you're
fair.
working on, you have to know like how like for example creating a mock object. You have to deal with the library first to know how to create it in the first place. So
Yeah,
see
and
where you're-
that's exactly the problem we dealt with. So we did not write most of these tests first, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that none of us has ever written WebRTC code before.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was playing around with the library objects to learn how to actually make them interact with each other, because I can't write an interface for something I don't know how to use.
So a good portion of the week was spent just learning how the libraries work and things like that.
Yeah, we actually didn't get the capture card from our sponsor until Thursday, so.
I see.
So we've been working on the actual application only for about a week now.
So
Oh.
Craig,
I have
go
another
ahead.
question. So whenever you're connected like via HDMI, right?
Yes.
So is that going to be is the same data that's passing from your computer going to be the same exact thing as whenever they're plugged into the medical monitor?
Well, it just comes in as a raw video stream
Okay.
over UVC. So we can encode that. FFmpeg will take any type that's coming into it and then encode it to the type that we have out. So
So you could plug that HDMI into any source and it would pass that.
yeah,
through,
exactly.
And it's on your end to
It's
decode that and display it. Okay.
As long as it has a video output.
Okay.
So on Linux, it shows up as a device in the dev folder, so it's like dev video 2 or whatever. And then on Mac OS, it shows up as a device in AV Foundations, which is a driver for Mac OS. We have not ported to Windows yet. That is another goal over the upcoming weeks.